Hey, Lynz, what are you listening to?
Brian, you share yours and I'll share mine.
With millions of podcasts, how do you choose?
We are here to help you find that next bingeable podcast.
Or that piece of content you'll follow regularly.
You're listening to Feed Drops.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Feed Drops. I am Brian.
And I am Lynz, and we are here from Sitch Radio in Irvine, California. I come to you from Growth Network Podcasts, and we bring our two studios together every week to promote other people's podcasts.
Because podcasters promoting other people's shows is kind of far and few in between, in my experience.
There's certainly, we had this thought at some point there should be more of that, and instead of sort of castigating everybody else to do so, we thought, well, let's do it ourselves.
And Lynz, I need to give credit where credit is due, because this was your concept, and I'm so grateful that you brought it to me and you entrusted me with, helping on this project. And of all two people, you and I both know not only what it takes to create a podcast episode, but multiple podcast episodes in a week.
Yeah. No, it's a treat, Brian, to work with you on this and to be able to fine tune it. I think we both know, look, we're perfectionists. We want to do the best work we can, and we saw all the ways it could have been better at every previous stage and even now. And so to be able to kind of dial it in with a positive mindset and a can-do attitude with you is a joy, because not everyone's got that kind of vibe.
Yeah, I thrive with challenge. If people present to me, hey, can we do this? And I can't say yes immediately, I will figure it out so I can say yes, because yes is a really cool word.
Yeah. Well, and you just sort of, there's a mystery in not knowing what will unfold with a yes.
That is true. A long time ago, Sitch Radio was going to be audio only. I was like, grounded. I'm audio only. And people wanted video. So, I add a camera and it's just blown up. And I'm so glad I did, because being able to connect with people via video on platforms like Bullhorn, thank you for Bullhorn having us here, and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, it's cool to have these multiple outlets for the content that we create and we're extremely passionate about.
Yeah, no, and you could spend your whole life just on those platforms promoting the thing and then forget to come back and make the content in the first place.
That's right.
There's so much to do, and it's really, it's a rich space.
Well, Lynz, we're going to do your show first. So what did you bring to the table today?
I brought a show called Album ReBrews, and it features a pair of hosts who they have a guest every time, and they pick a beer to drink, so the audience can join along and drink at home while they talk about an old album, an album pick, a music album of somebody's choosing. And this one, they picked the album Fashion Nugget by the band Cake, which really takes me back to those high school days. It's fun to kind of ride the nostalgia train on that one. So, I'm looking forward to bringing you Album ReBrews.
Very cool.
What about you, Brian?
I have PNW Haunts and Homicides Podcast, which is a true crime / spooky, scary, haunting stories from the Pacific Northwest. That's what the PNW is. And it's hosted by Caitlyn and Cassie, who you can tell have fun doing what they're doing. So it's kind of hard to get scared listening to it, because they're just having so much fun doing it. And that was the unique thing that put me over the edge to want to really dive into their show a little more. So that's what I have. And we're going to dive into Lynz's choice right after this quick break.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to Feed Drops. We're going to dig right in here with my show, my pick for the week, Album ReBrews. And host Sarah and Zach do a really great job of creating a fun atmosphere in their show. In this episode, they have Tim Krause, who is a musician himself, and so they pair beer with albums. They had Tim pick a beer, and they picked a beer of their own. They put it in the show notes so that you could, if you wanted to pick those beers to listen as well, you could at home. I thought that was a fun treat. But getting into the reason I picked the show is because I know the album not super well, but it's, of all the picks they had, it was an album I was familiar with. And I think for anyone in my age group, I'm in my early 40s, you know some of the songs off of this album for sure.
I'm in my early 40s too.
I see that. You listening at home may not see how early 40s Brian looks, but most certainly early 40s.
We'll stick with that.
But anyway, I just wanted to give you a sense with these first clip here of that, sort of how they talk about the music and how they talk about this album. With clip numero uno.
And after going through the first half, I ended up going to Dr. Google and being like, what genre is this album supposed to be?
Good question.
And that is something for people who have not fully digested this album or other Cake albums. They have so many fun references and music styles woven into something that ends up being really quintessentially
I'm super excited to talk about those music references.
Yeah.
They are just peppered in this album fantastically.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Lynz, I want to jump in here because I might know songs, but I don't know who sang it or a band name. So I'm eager to see if I'm even familiar with the songs because the band Cake does not ring a bell.
All right. So the two songs you would recognize off of this album, one is called Going the Distance. And he's going the distance. So that one is probably the most famous. And then they do a cover of I Will Survive. And that is the Gloria Gaynor disco hit, I Will Survive. Mm-hmm. And it's funky and weird in all the 90s ways, I would say. I really kind of dug it. And the rest of the album is a mishmash of sort of country and horns. And I think their point there is it doesn't stay, those two songs are not indicative of what the rest of the songs, they go down some real rabbit holes. So if you like music that doesn't stay the same very often, this is the kind of album for you.
Very cool.
And we can actually, I just said sort of what the second clip is, so we don't have to say it, but basically that those two radio singles are not representative of that. So I'm going to jump straight to clip number 3.
Are you sure?
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear clip number 2.
Let's live on the edge.
I would definitely say that if your kind of foot in the door for Cake is their radio singles, I don't think that's very representative of them as a band.
No.
And I think that's purposeful. I think that their radio singles are kind of they're more sarcastic and more ironic because they're kind of putting a double middle finger to the industry. And
I'm glad we kept it. That's good.
I am as well.
Yeah. I love anyone who kind of puts a double middle finger up to the industry. I think that's what musicians sort of should be doing a little bit. Not all of them. Obviously, the ones who are making buku bucks can't be doing that, but those on the fringe can do it all day long.
All day.
So yeah, I forget what this third one is about. I'm sure I'll set it up well after we hear it.
I'm just trying to rethink back. I'm pushing 38 here. I'm trying to think back what I thought of this song when I was 14,
Yeah.
I was probably just oh man, it's cool. That's really deep, man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Yeah, right.
I hadn't seen the music video until this weekend, so I had no idea what it was about.
Have you ever, Brian, have you ever had a song where you thought it was about one thing and this is a good, and then later you find out it was about something else entirely?
Most definitely.
I want to close this section out here with one last quote, and I'll ask you a question afterwards.
An easy karaoke song. The Cake radio singles are excellent picks because he just kind of talks in the key of E.
It's a good kind of first step into the world of karaoke.
And the words because like this is a great song. You hear it on the radio 1,000 times, but you don't have to really sing it.
Yeah. So Brian, what's your karaoke go-to song?
I don't even know the name of it. Got a little change in your pocket going jing-a-ling-a-ling. You know that one?
I don't.
Yeah, I'll have to Google it because I honestly don't know. It's in every karaoke, as the one gentleman put it.
That was funny, yeah.
Book ever. But I'm not much of a guy that likes to put myself out there.
I know you've always seemed so shy to me. It's
well, I can't sing either, so
that's
it's brutal.
Johnny Cash is my go-to.
I put a hat out on the stage. People will put money in it, so I stop early.
Yeah,
buy me a beer. I'll shut up.
Awesome. Well, that has been Album ReBrews, and I think there were a couple of times I honestly, and I tweeted it out the minute it happened. I laughed so hard my cheeks hurt, and I like to laugh, but that doesn't happen often. That a podcast will make me just sort of laugh long enough for my cheeks to hurt. So, to me, that is a high stamp of approval, and so you should definitely tune in to the Just the Drops on this week, so that you can get the full episode and laugh like I did.
That's a good pull. I definitely want to hear this entire episode, so I look forward to
I would
it.
say listen to the record first and then go listen to the episode. I think that would be a fun way to consume it.
That's a very good pull. I might do that. Then I can talk in a key of E and along with them.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be good.
You can go the distance.
I love the fact that this show's pulling a beer into the show. That's kind of a really cool idea.
I think, I think it'd be really fun to have them on an episode and pull a beer for their show and say like, hey, we're over here drinking something West Coast with you, because they're somewhere Midwesty.
There's a beer, and it has a Spanish name, but it's actually brewed in the Philippines. And occasionally you can find it on the American shelves, but it is not the same as what you can get in the Philippines or overseas. And it's called San Miguel. And, for those of you who aren't up on your history, the Spanish held, the Philippines for quite some time. There's a lot of Spanish influence there. But the funny thing about San Miguel, you might get a bottle out of a 6-pack and it's like 0.5%. Then your next bottle's 6, So it's just a crapshoot of what you're going to get. Now, having been in the military, I have Navy buddies who married, a Filipino national, and they're now, Americanized. But when they go back to visit her family, they'll bring back some San Miguel, and we usually have a barbecue. And it's just, what an experience that was.
Nice.
I don't know why I felt compelled to tell a beer story.
Hey, you know what? Now we have a beer to go in our episode. San Miguel.
San Miguel. Yeah. Well, we're going to be right back with PNW Haunts and Homicides podcast right after this short break. All right, Lynz, do you like getting scared?
A little bit.
Are you much of a true crime kind of guy?
I like the intrigue and the suspense. I don't like a jump scare per se, but I like to be led down a windy road of plot goodness.
Well, this show focuses on haunts and homicides in the Pacific Northwest, which I thought was interesting. And then reviewing it to choose a show for this episode, they giggle through it. They have some fun. They do the whole tarot card reading at a front in the episodes. And, for those that are into it, kind of fun to listen along with them. But this episode focused on the Heathman Hotel. Now, I am not familiar with the Pacific Northwest well enough to know the Heathman Hotel, but I guess if you live in Portland, it's like a staple. The really cool thing that they did is they really set the scene for when the hotel was built, by whom, and how the son took it over after the father had passed, and all the cool things that went through that hotel. At one time, it had the largest coffee shop in it in Portland. There was another business that was in it. Oh, it was a radio station. Used to be housed inside of this hotel. When TV came out, they shut the radio station down and built a TV studio, same channel. So there's lots of cool history like that. And I dig cool history like that when it's tied to places that I'm visiting. So they set the show up really well before they got into the haunt. So I like that historical aspect and them really taking the time to set the scene. Lynz, have you dabbled around Portland at all?
I've only been once. Well, I passed through it to go to a concert at the Gorge in Washington. So I passed through on the way up and the way back, but just the one time.
Didn't hang out.
Just overnight both times, though. I stayed there.
Yeah. It's, I'll have to tell you a story about a hotel in San Diego that we always stay at, but this story makes me always want to stay at the Heathman when and if I'm ever in Portland. So it's kind of cool. So we're going to kick off with clip number 1.
In room 703, a woman had her towels thrown on the ground and thought like the staff had done it. And they gave her new towels and they just ended up back on the floor.
Why would the staff do that?
I know, right? Like,
I mean,
why would the staff throw towels on the
I
floor?
get why you would look for any other logical explanation. But...
Yeah. And the second time, like, she hadn't left the room. So this happened while she was in the room. Obviously, she knew no one had been in there but her.
No, thank
you.
They kind of hooked you up front and you're like, yeah, whatever, towels on the ground. But then it happened a second time.
The second time.
It's like a little eyebrow raiser there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have to admit, my first assumption is that she's making it all up. Right?
And you kind of wonder that with haunting stories. It's like, okay, there's got to be a logical. I think our brain wants there to be a logical explanation because we have to know,
Yeah.
The unknown scares us. So, but that was clip number 1 that I chose for you. And they talk about the 03 rooms quite a bit because there was a woman, I think it was 703, that took her life going out the window. So all the 03 rooms will hear screams. It's been reported. So they're like, do you want to stay in an 03 room or do you not want to stay in an 03 room?
Oh, wow.
All right, here's clip number 2.
Another room with a ton of activity is room 503, and the housekeepers
503.
503.
503.
503. The housekeepers frequently see like a big orb flying around the room, and one of them managed to get a picture of it, and they hung it in the break room. Yeah. I want to
need
see
to
this
see
picture.
this.
I know. Like, I want to go there and be like, let me in your break room.
Just sneak in. It's fine.
We could like try to get hired there. We could be like an
Right?
inside spy.
How interesting. Could you imagine that picture in the break room?
Yeah. I mean, that's some deep cover if they want to go in there to investigate. It's like, oh, we're going to go work at that hotel in order to
see a picture hanging on the wall. Now, Lynz, both of us have worked in a hospitality industry, hotel or whatnot. And the pictures in the back of the house hanging on the wall, were there ever any orbs at your properties?
No, but sometimes they would point out something. More often than not, they're like pictures of people that aren't allowed on the premises, or something like that.
All the people that were trespassed.
Yeah. Nope, didn't see anything like that. I did work at a hotel that was purportedly haunted, though, and the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles has a long history of seeming haunted, and I worked there for 2 years. I mean, 6 days a week for 2 years straight, and I've been in every nook and cranny of that building, and it is freaky and weird.
Did you ever experience anything paranormal?
All the paranormalized stuff I saw could be explained away as electrical or like plumbing noise, phenomenon. I mean, there's just like these giant types of water going through the wall, that there's just like all these noises from machines that are trying to, cool a 13-story building. And
Right.
I just assume it's all machinery, but other people interpret anything that goes wrong as haunted.
Anything they can't logically explain.
Mm-hmm.
Clip number 3 of PNW Haunts and Homicides podcast.
Apparently Jennifer Aniston stayed there too and was terrified. They didn't say what her experience was, only that she was terrified.
What?
Isn't
I
that
want to
crazy?
know what room she stayed in.
Yeah, it didn't
too.
say what room she stayed in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming like one of the top.
Yeah, I mean, I would think
Yeah.
whatever the best room in the house is.
Can I get the Jennifer Aniston suite, please?
I know. Do you think if we called them, we were like, hey, we want to stay in the Jennifer Aniston suite? Do you think they would be like, okay, yeah, all right, we got
what
you.
the fuck are you talking about? I want to stay in the Stephen King suite.
Now, they did have clips, and apparently Stephen King frequents, and that's his hotel of choice when he's in the
Ooh, that's
Portland
cool.
area.
That's cool.
Which is, that is kind of cool. And, him having written so much in this genre of podcast is kind of a cool connection. But that was PNW Haunts and Homicides podcast. What do you think, Lynz?
I mean, that there's only one, that there's a hotel like this, that they have a podcast implies that there's a lot of buildings that have these phenomena going on. And it does seem like the Pacific Northwest is a place where that might be the case. It is also the place that brought the Twilight vampires and werewolves stories and all that kind of stuff. There's some supernatural shit in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm glad these ladies are telling the stories.
And they're doing it in a fun way, to where, most people can enjoy the show. So I was happy to bring this to the table.
Nice. I'm glad you did, because it was on our spreadsheet. It's just it stuck out at me a couple of times, and I didn't really pick it, but then you did.
I wonder how often that happens, where I'm like, I got to make a choice between these two. Let me go with this one. We pick opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a win-win, because I get to hear what you were thinking about picking, and you get to hear what you almost picked.
Which brings us to the portion of the show where we tell you to submit your show. If you've got a podcast or a podcast you like, submit the show and let us know why we should feature it and all that. And you do that on feeddrops.com, and you click the submit button at the top and go on the website there. So please do submit your show. Now, granted, we can't really take every submission that comes in, but it's really nice to get a wide variety of shows. We're really not trying to stay in a specific genre, because this is all about expanding what we listen to and what we share with other people. So please submit your shows. And if your genre or your style of podcast hasn't been represented here, then it's even more important to submit your show for us.
Yeah, and whether you're the podcaster or a fan of the podcast, feel free to submit it. Just let us know if you are not the podcaster, so we can ensure due diligence is done. We do reach out to podcasters and let them know, hey, we picked your show, and try to engage with them long prior to the recording. But yeah, let us know. That's been kind of a fun thing, is to open up the spreadsheet and see what's there, and listen to bits of episodes here and there, then listen to an entire episode or two before you make a decision. And it's been fun for me, and it's getting me out of my educational business bubble of shows that I normally listen to.
Yeah, same. And it's been a lot of fun to. The fun part then is seeing those shows on social media when we're on social media later. And so seeing the people who submitted the shows through our website and then following them on TikTok or following them on Instagram and seeing what they're posting and interacting, it's like, oh, we're actually meeting each other. Like, I know it's not like in person, but
Right.
we're genuinely connecting. And that's my favorite.
We've never really discussed criteria, and maybe that's an after show thing, but there are things. Once I decide, yeah, I like this show, it's on my short list, there are other things I do before I make a decision. So that'll be an interesting conversation in
I
the
tell you
after
what,
party.
that is for the after show here. So if you want to hear about that kind of discussion, sort of the inside baseball of the inside feed drops, then definitely tune into what we're doing on Bullhorn, bullhorn.fm, where we do a pre-show and an after show, so that you can kind of, go deeper with us, can drop in, can deep dropping.
Excuse me. What else might you have for us today?
I think, what I have today, I have nothing else.
I've got some of that for the listeners as well. So we want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Feed Drops. Again, I'm Brian. That is
Lynz Florin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And, we hope you enjoy this show. And if you know of anybody looking for a podcast to listen to, tune them into ours, because we might be able to feature something that they might just like. And if you learned about a new show that you're now subscribed and or following, let them know you heard about them from Feed Drops. That's greatly appreciated. We have been engaging with all the shows we featured on social media, as Lynz put out, and it's kind of cool to watch this circle grow.
Yeah, it's been a real treat, and we really thank you for tuning in, and we hope that we see you next time, hear you next time. We hope you hear us next time on Feed Drops.
All right, everybody.